The Xylar Corporation prided itself on efficiency above all else. Their intergalactic conquests were legendary across 3-star systems, not just for their thoroughness, but for their immaculate procedural adherence. In a universe of chaos, the Xylarians stood as a beacon of order, their gleaming ships arranged in perfect geometric formations, their invasion protocols refined over centuries to mathematical precision. Supreme Coordinator Zorp adjusted his uniform for the 14th time that cycle, ensuring that each of the 7 silver bars on his lapel sat at precisely the same angle. His long, blue-gray fingers gently caressed the worn cover of the Xylar Standard Conquest Manual, a tome he had memorized by his 5th cycle of life, but carried nonetheless as both comfort and symbol of his unshakable devotion to procedure. Pre-invasion assessment report, Supreme Coordinator, announced Vice Coordinator Blix, materializing at the threshold of Zorp's pristine command chamber. Unlike his superior, Blix's uniform showed the nearly imperceptible signs of hasty adjustment, a fact that Zorp noted with quiet disapproval. "Proceed with the summary, Vice Coordinator," Zorp replied, his voice maintaining the flat, emotionless tone that marked all proper Xylar communication. Blix activated a holographic display showing a blue-green sphere. Target planet 734 Kappa, colloquially identified in preliminary scans as dirt. Resource-rich, minimal technological sophistication, and biological signatures indicating primitive life forms engaged in rudimentary communal activities. Chances of meaningful resistance? Zorp inquired, already knowing the answer but following Section 3, Paragraph 7 of the Conquest Preparation Protocol. "Statistically negligible," Blix replied, a hint of eagerness seeping into his voice. "Our scans indicate no defense systems, no unified governance structure, and energy usage patterns consistent with pre-spatial civilizations. The conquest should require minimal resources and provide maximum return." Zorp nodded, then frowned slightly as he noticed a small annotation blinking at the corner of the display. "What is this notation regarding Earth?" Blix's 4 eyes blinked in quick succession, a rare display of Xylar emotion that might be interpreted as dismissive. A poetic or archaic designation, flagged for dismissal. It appears in only 0.002% of our intercepts and contradicts our logical designation system. Likely a translation error or mythological reference. "Verify and document the dismissal," Zorp commanded, adhering to procedure. "Already completed, Supreme Coordinator. The flag has been properly logged and dismissed according to Section 12, Paragraph 18 of the manual." Zorp allowed himself a slight nod of approval. Perhaps Blix was finally learning. "Prepare the impeccable order for departure. We commence the invasion in precisely 7 units. As Blix departed, Zorp turned to gaze at his fleet through the transparent viewport of the command vessel. 50 ships, arranged in a perfect pentagonal formation, each vessel identical down to the molecular level, each crew member trained to respond with identical efficiency. The sight filled him with what a human might recognize as pride, though Xylar would never admit to such an inefficient emotion. The journey to planet 734 Kappa took precisely the calculated time. Not a single variance occurred in the formation as the fleet emerged from hyperspace above the blue-green world. Zorp surveyed the planet below, consulting the scan data to select the optimal landing site. A region showing concentrated biological activity but minimal energy signatures, suggesting a primitive gathering without technological defenses. "The gathering appears to be in a desert region," Blix reported, "with thousands of biological entities congregated in patterns that suggest ritual behavior." "Perfect," Zorp replied. "A demonstration of our superiority at a primitive ceremonial gathering will establish immediate dominance. Deploy landing vessels according to Protocol 17 Alpha." The landing vessels descended with perfect synchronization, creating a formation that would appear both beautiful and terrifying to any watching eyes. The lead vessel, carrying Zorp, Blix, and an elite contingent of Xylar enforcers, approached the surface with meticulous precision. What the scans had failed to properly interpret was that the primitive gathering was, in fact, the penultimate night of Cosmic Resonance, the world's largest electronic music festival, held annually in the Nevada desert. As the Xylar vessels descended through the atmosphere, they passed through layers of laser light, shows projecting fractals into the night sky. Below, 50,000 humans danced in various states of euphoria to the pounding rhythms produced by a stage setup that used more electricity than a small city. The lead Xylar vessel touched down at the periphery of the festival, its sleek antiseptic design forming a stark contrast to the riot of colors, costumes, and creative chaos surrounding it. The ship's ramp extended with hydraulic precision, and Zorp stepped out, flanked by Blix and 6 enforcers. The scene that greeted them defied every Xylar expectation. Humans in elaborate, colorful outfits, many adorned with glowing accessories, moved in seemingly random patterns. The air vibrated with bass frequencies so powerful that Zorp could feel them disrupting his inner equilibrium membranes. Laser lights cut through artificial fog, creating an environment that, to Xylar's sensibilities, appeared to be actively hostile to logical thought. Vice Coordinator, Zorp managed, his voice betraying the barest hint of confusion, explain what we are witnessing. Blix frantically consulted his datapad. The minimal biological signatures appear to be convulsing in synchronized patterns, he attempted, watching as thousands of humans jumped in approximate unison to a bass drop. Hypothesis: primitive defense mechanism, or possibly a mating ritual. And the auditory assault? Zorp inquired as another wave of bass washed over them. High-intensity sound weapons, continuously deployed, Blix suggested, his voice rising to be heard over the music. Zorp straightened his uniform. Initiate standard contact protocol. The enforcers activated the universal translator beacon, projecting the Xylar symbol of order, a perfect dodecahedron, into the night sky, while broadcasting the standard message of planetary submission in all known frequencies. The message went completely unnoticed. The massive sound system drowned out the Xylar broadcast, and the projected symbol merely blended in with the festival's elaborate light show, with several attendees cheering what they assumed was a new visual effect. A group of humans approached the ship, their pupils dilated, movements lacking the precision that Xylar culture valued. One human, wearing only shorts decorated with luminescent geometric patterns and something called angel wings, approached Zorp directly. "Dude, your costumes are sick," the human exclaimed, extending a water bottle toward Zorp. "Hydrate, bro." The universal translator struggled to interpret the communication, eventually rendering it as, "Medical professional, your protective covering indicates illness. Consume liquid, sibling unit." Zorp stepped back, alarmed by what appeared to be a primitive medical diagnosis and attempted treatment. "We are not ill or in need of medical intervention," he stated formally. "We are representatives of the Xylar Corporation, here to assume control of your planetary resources." The translation reached the festival goer as, "We're part of a corporate art installation exploring themes of consumption and resource allocation." "Right on, man," the human responded enthusiastically. "Is this part of the Midnight Light Show? Where's the VIP area?" More humans gathered, many offering glowing sticks, holding up communication devices to capture images, or asking incomprehensible questions about the production value and whether the aliens were with ethereal soundscapes or quantum vibrations. One enforcer, increasingly disturbed by the crowd's chaotic behavior, attempted to demonstrate Xylar dominance by disabling a nearby speaker tower. This action, rather than inspiring awe and submission, provoked immediate and vocal protest from the crowd. Someone in the back threw a half-eaten vegan burrito that hit the enforcer directly in his optical sensors, temporarily blinding him with guacamole and hot sauce. "Supreme Coordinator," Blix shouted over the renewed, musical assault that followed the speaker's rapid repair. "The indigenous life forms are exhibiting extremely unpredictable behavior and possess surprising projectile capabilities, despite their primitive technology. Request tactical reassessment. Zorp frantically flipped through his manual, finding nothing under vegan burrito attacks or response to seemingly intoxicated natives offering hydration. For the first time in his distinguished career, he wondered if the Xyler Standard Conquest Manual might have gaps in its otherwise comprehensive coverage. Strategic withdrawal, Zorp ordered, his voice maintaining its flat effect despite his inner turmoil. We will relocate to a quieter region and establish a proper base of operations. The Xyler vessels lifted off, leaving behind a crowd that cheered what they assumed was an elaborate drone show finale. Several festival-goers later reported having a really profound conversation with some dudes in amazing alien cosplay, though most skeptical friends attributed these encounters to the effects of various recreational substances. Following extensive scans for a more logical landing zone, the Xyler fleet descended upon what their instruments indicated was a large but orderly population center with structured movement patterns, a massive suburban shopping mall in Florida on discount weekend. The ships landed in the far corner of the sprawling parking lot, immediately encountering difficulty navigating the chaotic arrangement of vehicles, shopping carts, and inexplicable concrete islands decorated with withering vegetation. The inhabitants appeared to gather in this structure to exchange resources. Blix observed as they approached the mall entrance, passing signs that announced 50% off everything you don't need, and buy one, get one free. Their resource allocation system must be highly inefficient if they are giving away goods at no cost, Zorp noted, puzzled by the economic model implied. As they entered the climate-controlled interior of the mall, the Xyler invasion force was immediately set upon, not by security forces, but by an enthusiastic group of elderly humans who had been gathering for their morning mall-walking session. Well, look at this. Are you folks part of that science fiction convention at the Marriott? Asked a silver-haired woman wearing a tracksuit adorned with sequined flamingos. Before Zorp could reply with the standard conquest declaration, another elderly human approached Blix directly. Those tentacles look so realistic. Is that makeup or one of those 3D printed things? My grandson does that computer stuff too. They are not tentacles, they are sensory appendages, Blix corrected, instinctively moving his upper limbs away from the curious human's reaching hand. Are those mustaches natural, honey? Another mall walker asked an enforcer, gesturing to the breathing filaments that extended from beneath the Xyler's nasal cavities. The invasion force retreated strategically toward the food court, only to be intercepted by a determined young woman standing beside a small kiosk. Hello there. Do you have a minute to talk about our exclusive credit card offer? Today only, you'll get 15% off your first purchase and 5,000 bonus points. While Zorp attempted to process this apparent negotiation attempt, a man in a tropical shirt approached from another kiosk. Folks, how would you like to hear about an amazing timeshare opportunity in Orlando? Just 90 minutes of your time for a free Disney pass. Desperate to regain control of the situation, Zorp dispatched a scout drone to analyze the infrastructure of the facility. The sleek, hovering device had barely made it past the food court when it was mistaken for a delivery drone by a harried mall employee. Before the Xyler operators could redirect it, the drone had been loaded with 3 shopping bags from an online order pickup and sent on its way with instructions to make sure the ice cream doesn't melt this time. Determining that the mall presented too many unforeseen complications, Zorp ordered a contingent to secure what scans indicated was a major resource node, the supermarket anchor store at the mall's east end. The squad of 6 enforcers marched in perfect formation through the automatic doors, only to find themselves immediately separated by the unpredictable flow of shopping carts and the inexplicable human tendency to stop abruptly in thoroughfares. One enforcer found himself trapped in an aisle of colorful boxes featuring cartoon characters, unable to proceed due to 2 small humans having emotional meltdowns over which type they wanted. Another became entangled in what appeared to be a territorial dispute over the last organic avocado, finding himself unwittingly drafted as an arbiter in a heated argument about ripeness. The enforcer designated as squad leader attempted to proceed to the control center, customer service desk, but was intercepted by an employee with an enthusiastic smile and a tray of small food items. Free sample? It's our new gluten-free, non-GMO, plant-based meatball alternative. The enforcer, trained to test unknown substances for safety, accepted the sample and performed a rapid analysis. Finding no toxins, but puzzled by the 47 ingredients listed on the package, she consumed it according to protocol. Within minutes, 3 more enforcers have been offered and accepted, samples ranging from artisanal cheese cubes to probiotic kombucha, their mission temporarily forgotten as they process the unfamiliar flavor profiles. The final enforcer, attempting to reach the store's back area to access its distribution system, was stopped by a beaming employee who presented him with a large basket of pet food. Congratulations! You're our 1 millionth customer this year. You've won a year's supply of premium Whiskers cat food. The enforcer, trained to follow procedures for all eventualities, consulted the section on unexpected acquisitions during planetary conquest, and, finding no prohibition against accepting local honors, formally took possession of the prize while requesting storage arrangements on the flagship. Meanwhile, Blix had attempted to implement Protocol 7B, infrastructure system incapacitation, by accessing the local network. This effort quickly devolved into an exercise in frustration as he encountered a captcha requiring him to select all images containing traffic lights. Two-factor authentication, sending verification codes to a non-existent local communication device. Incessant software update notifications that could not be dismissed. A terms of service agreement spanning 147 pages that had to be scrolled through completely before proceeding. After the 4th failed attempt to convince the system he was not a robot, an irony not lost on the increasingly agitated Blix, he developed a facial tic that caused his upper left eye to twitch spasmodically. Back on the flagship, Zorp reviewed the increasingly disturbing reports filtering in from his ground forces. Instead of the expected documentation of submission and resource cataloging, he received a request for clarification on competitive dog grooming practices, multiple notifications about reality television programming discovered during communication channel scanning, a concerning report that 3 enforcers had opened what were termed social media accounts to better understand the natives, an expense report for 17 shopping bags from something called Bath & Body Works, with a note explaining they were necessary for cultural integration research. With each passing cycle, the reports grew stranger and the mission parameters seemed increasingly unattainable. Zorp, whose centuries-long career had never included a failed conquest, began to experience the unfamiliar sensation of doubt. He consulted the manual with increasing frequency, finding its guidance increasingly inadequate for the situations at hand. "We require a definitive display of power," he announced to his command staff. "We will occupy a major governmental center and broadcast our demands globally. Identify the most significant governmental installation on this continent." After analysis, the fleet repositioned itself over Washington, D.C., the massive ships hovering ominously above the National Mall. Zorp personally composed the surrender demand, a masterpiece of bureaucratic precision outlining the terms of planetary submission and resource allocation schedules. The broadcast began at precisely the calculated optimal time for maximum global viewership, only to be interrupted by an emergency alert system test, followed by traffic and weather updates. When they finally managed to secure a broadcast channel, most viewers assumed it was either a movie promotion, an elaborate political satire, or, in the case of those who had attended Cosmic Resonance the previous week, those same aliens from the festival, still doing their bit. Undeterred, Zorp ordered landing parties to secure key governmental buildings. The results were, by Zyler standards, catastrophic. At the Pentagon, the invasion force was immediately stalled by multiple security checkpoints, required to fill out visitor forms in triplicate, and left waiting for temporary ID badges. One squad became hopelessly lost after following signs to the food court, ending up in an endless corridor of identical doors. At the Capitol, their takeover attempt was hampered by the fact that Congress wasn't in session. The staffers present directed them to submit their planetary acquisition request through the appropriate subcommittee's website, which was currently undergoing maintenance. At the National Archives, the Zeiler team was mistaken for a historical reenactment group and sternly reminded not to touch the display cases containing the Constitution. After 3 days of similar bureaucratic entanglements, Zorp's communications officer finally reported contact from an Earth official. Not the planetary leader he had expected, but a mid-level functionary from the Department of Interagency Cooperation and Miscellaneous Errands. "Hello there." Janet Pinkerton, deputy assistant to the associate director, announced a cheerful woman via video connection. "I'm reaching out to schedule a preliminary Zoom meeting to discuss potential collaboration pathways regarding your, presence. Before we proceed, I need to confirm whether your delegation has completed the required extraterrestrial visitation impact assessment, Form XG 883. Alpha? It's absolutely mandatory before we can move forward with any meaningful dialogue." Zorp stared at the screen, then at the 50-page form that had been transmitted to his console. He had conquered 7 worlds. He had received the Order of Absolute Efficiency 16 times. Never, in all his cycles, had he been required to fill out a form before accepting surrender. As days stretched into weeks, the Zeiler invasion reached a complete standstill. Zorp spent increasing amounts of time staring blankly at Form X883 Alpha, particularly the section requiring comprehensive environmental impact projections for all potential conquest-related activities, minimum 10,000 characters, with citations in APA format. Blix, lacking clear directives and increasing exposure to human culture, developed an unhealthy obsession with online poker and conspiracy theory websites. He became convinced that cats were secretly controlling the government, citing their suspicious prevalence in internet communications and hypnotic purring capabilities. Without consistent leadership, the Zeiler forces began to adapt to their surroundings in unexpected ways. A squadron stationed near Minneapolis formed a bowling team, the Galactic Strikers, which quickly gained local fame for their mathematically perfect approach to the game. Their ability to calculate optimal angles and velocities made them unbeatable, though their victory celebrations, standing completely still in perfect formation, were considered somewhat lacking in enthusiasm. 3 enforcers in Portland discovered a passion for pottery after accidentally wandering into a community art class. Their ceramic creations, featuring mathematically perfect geometric patterns impossible to achieve with human hands, became coveted art pieces at local galleries. The Food Corps contingent, originally tasked with analyzing Earth nutrition, opened a food truck selling premium nutrient paste bowls that became unexpectedly popular after they added sriracha sauce and called them alien fusion bowls. Many Zeiler discovered that their obsession with organization and procedure made them excellent IT support specialists. Their ability to follow troubleshooting protocols with absolute precision, and their complete lack of emotional response to even the most technologically challenged users, resulted in employment offers from several major corporations. One navigator, whose ability to predict weather patterns based on atmosphere data analysis was significantly more accurate than local meteorologists, became a beloved TV weather forecaster in Seattle. His catchphrase, "Precipitation is inevitable. Resistance is illogical," becoming a local meme. The flagship Impeccable Order, still hovering above Washington, D.C., was gradually transformed into a tourist attraction offering zero-gravity tours for a modest fee. Gift shop plans were rumored to be in development, with "I survived the alien invasion and all I got was this t-shirt" merchandise already in production. On the 97th day of what was supposed to have been a 3-day conquest, Zorp received an unexpected visitor. Rather than the high-ranking military official or world leader he might have anticipated, the visitor was Brenda Mortensen, a cheerful, extremely organized PDA president from Alexandria, Virginia. "Hello. Hope I'm not interrupting anything important," Brenda chirped as she was escorted into Zorp's command chamber. She carried a tote bag emblazoned with "Organization is my superpower," and wore a sweater featuring appliqued autumn leaves. Zorp stared at her, his 4 eyes blinking in perfect synchronization. "How did you gain access to this command vessel?" "Oh, I brought cookies to your security team every Tuesday for the past month," she explained, waving dismissively. They're absolute sweethearts once you get to know them. Did you know that Lieutenant KZZTK has celiac disease? I've been bringing him gluten-free snickerdoodles. Before Zorp could process this security breach, Brenda had spread several laminated documents across his command console. I've taken the liberty of completing Form XG 883 Alpha for you. Goodness knows bureaucracy can be a nightmare, even for advanced civilizations. I've also drafted a proposed schedule for cultural exchange workshops. I'm thinking Xyler Origami Hour could be a hit at the community center, and brought you some brownies. The secret is using both chocolate chips and cocoa powder. Zorp looked from the perfectly completed form, with color-coded tabs for each section, to the container of brownies, then back to Brenda's smiling face. Additionally, she continued, seemingly unperturbed by his silence, I wanted to let you know that your people have been provisionally approved for temporary residency status, non-dominant classification, conditional upon attendance at the next neighborhood association meeting. There's been some concern about the architectural consistency of your ship. It doesn't quite align with the historic district guidelines, but I'm sure we can work something out. Zorp's mind, trained for centuries to process and categorize information according to rigid protocols, simply stopped functioning. In all his extensive preparation, in all the scenarios mapped out in the Xyler Standard Conquest Manual, there was no protocol for dealing with a Brenda. Oh, and one more thing, she added, reaching in her tote bag. I've set up a shared Google Calendar for all upcoming Xyler Human Integration events. I've already added everyone's email addresses. Your Lieutenant Casey's TK was so helpful with that, and sent out the first batch of invitations. The Homecoming Parade Committee is absolutely thrilled about having your hovercrafts participate next month. As Brenda continued to outline her comprehensive integration plans, something fundamental shifted in Zorp's understanding. The Xyler had approached Earth as they had every other planet, as a resource to be conquered, cataloged, and controlled. But Earth, it seemed, had conquered them instead, not through resistance or technology or military might, but through an unrelenting barrage of chaos, bureaucracy, social obligations, and brownies. The final transmission sent to the Xyler homeworld contained no conquest report, no resource inventory, no submission treaties. Instead, it consisted entirely of a looping audio of cat videos and someone whispering, "Does anybody know the Wi-Fi password?" The Xyler eventually understood the true meaning of the name Earth, not a planetary designation, but a state of being, chaotic, confusing, and completely unconquerable by conventional means. Most importantly, the Xyler learned that sometimes the most efficient response to inefficiency was simply to embrace it, perhaps with a brownie in hand and a community pottery class on the calendar.